for being with us. Firstly, looking at that footage from what came out, just give us your take on the importance of this testimony.
Thanks very much, Francis, and good evening to your viewers at home. I think what's important to state is that we know now that the NGOs that patients, mental health care users were moved to were completely unprepared. Many didn't have enough food or water, many didn't have enough beds or enough blankets, and that these very vulnerable mental health care patients died in what we've come to learn of conditions of neglect, torture and suffering. And the fact that, as Griselda pointed out, that these licenses weren't issued or that the licenses were unlawful goes to show that these NGOs were not ready for the patients that they were told to receive. And the transfer shouldn't have gone ahead in this rushed manner, because the license is meant to act as a safeguard with the best interests and the human rights of the vulnerable mental health care users kind of at heart. And because these NGOs didn't have those licenses, the next question is, why were patients sent there if officials within the department knew that these NGOs weren't actually ready to receive the patients?
And remind us, from the testimony thus far, are we getting to the bottom of that question? Are we heading to a place of resolution for the families? What happened was inhumane. Are you coming to the point where you can say this was neglect or sheer incompetence or criminality?
It's a very good question, Francis, and this has been a very long process to date, and it's likely to be a long process going forward. And for the bereaved families who Section 27 represents, this process, the inquest, is absolutely crucial towards getting a sense of closure and a sense of justice for their lost loved ones. Now, whether we can say right now whether it was neglect or incompetence is perhaps a bit too premature. Hannah Jacobus, who took the stand today, is only the sixth of possibly 30 witnesses. There are going to be more state officials, more NGO owners, psychiatric experts, and even bereaved family members themselves taking the stand over the next few weeks. So it's possibly a bit premature, but this is a very crucial process towards finding that evidence, and from there, enabling the National Prosecuting Authority to take who were involved in the accountability for the lives that were lost.
Ms. Chaskalson, we lost the link there, and I think you were reminding us what this inquest is all about, what it can do, but then it's up to the National Prosecuting Authority to go ahead if there should be some legal action. Just recap.
Absolutely. What I was saying is that it's still fairly early days and that there are close to 25 more witnesses who will come and bring evidence. But we really hope, as Section 27 and in touch with the bereaved families, that the court does make findings about criminal liability on the part of Gauteng health officials, on the part of NGO owners, so that the prosecuting authority can take those findings forward and actually kind of get accountability for the people who were involved in this tragedy.
Yeah. Years have gone by. This really has dragged on. Can you give us some insight? What has the journey been like for the families based on the testimony they've heard thus far? Have they been more angered by what they've heard or relieved to some extent? Do they believe that the truth is finally coming out?
I think, Francis, I can't personally speak on behalf of the bereaved families, but the feedback that we've gotten as Section 27 is mixed, is that this process is a crucially important one, and the 44 families that we represent are very invested in the process and invested in seeing it through, which may take many more weeks or months. But on the other hand, this is also an emotionally grueling process. These are kind of 44 families who lost very vulnerable loved ones with whom they had very close relationships. So, kind of in terms of seeing state officials or NGO owners or people who are involved pass the buck and shift blame and kind of refuse to take responsibility for what happened, I think there is a sense of frustration. But, nonetheless, the families that Section 27 work with are incredibly resilient and are committed to seeing this through right to the end and make sure that their loved ones didn't die in vain and make sure that there is justice.
Yeah. You've said many more witnesses to come. There was some talk of subpoenas. Is there anybody you believe should be held to account or explain themselves?
Right now, the witness list is quite long. There are over 30 witnesses, which include, high-ranking state officials, including the former MEC, Qedani Mahlangu, the former head of the Mental Health Directorate, Dr. Makgabo Manamela, the former HOD, Dr. Bani Selabano. These are all very high-ranking figures in the story who, to date, haven't been held account, and they are due to give evidence towards the end of the inquest. But there are a range of other witnesses also going to be giving evidence, including some of the bereaved family members themselves, detailing what they saw when they tried to find their loved ones, the conditions at the NGOs, the kind of cruel and callous way in which state officials and NGO owners treated them when they were really just trying to find their loved ones. So there's a lot more information that still needs to come out in this inquest, and we really hope that this can form the basis for really meaningful prosecutions going forward.
All right, we'll follow those, no doubt, painful proceedings. It has to be done. All these people will be given a chance to have their say. Thank you very much, Julia Chaskalson from Section 27.